Hi everyone, welcome to episode 2 of the February Effect. Today we're going to be talking about taking action, and that's why today my guest is one of my best friends, Andrea. I have high respect for her because she's the person that is always taking action, and I want her to share a little bit of her tips, experiences, and life skills that she developed with time and how we can apply it ourselves. She might have made lots of projects, but she always takes action, and I think that experience is very, very important, because without taking action you don't know what you can achieve or what things or projects are actually for you. So welcome, Andrea. Thank you so much for being here. Please introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about your life in Mexico, so we can start from zero and they can understand the whole background of the story.
Yeah, of course, of course. Well, thank you very much, Anna, for having me here. When we were discussing with Anna about doing this episode together, I was actually very flattered that she considered me as a person of action. I tried, and it's true, as she mentioned, that I tend to get a little bit bored with different projects. So yeah, I'm going to be sharing a little bit of all the different kind of projects and changes, transformations that I have had in my life. That I think that's what Anna mentioned, that is about taking action. So hopefully you will find some of the advice and tips helpful. But yeah, my name is Andrea. I am originally from Mexico. I am from a very small city in Mexico called Celaya, Guanajuato. So yeah, before moving abroad, because I'm currently living in London as Anna is, I didn't have the chance to travel to any other countries or anything. I had a very stable life. I studied my high school and then my career. I started university degree in odontology, which yes, which I realized I got to the second year and we started considering taking out some teeth, and I was like, okay, this is
This
not
is
for
not
me.
for me.
Definitely. And that brought me to a very like important moment in my life that I didn't realize that it was that important until years later, where I got to that point that I knew that I didn't want to be a dentist. So I was trying to discover what I really liked, and something I had really clear is that I really like creating things. I consider myself as a creative person. So I remember when considering what other careers to study, I went into an expo in the same university where I was studying, and basically there was an expo made by graphic designers, and I was like, wow, I really like all the different crafts and output that they had at the time, and I was like, okay, yeah, this is a career for me. I think I feel like connected to this part. So I pitched it to my parents because they were helping me with my university. Is actually quite common in Mexico. I know that in other countries probably parents usually don't support with the university fees, but yeah, my parents were helping me with that. And I was like, look, I would like to study this. And they were like, no. It's a
Graphic
no,
design, right?
no. Yes, graphic design, yes. They were like, no, this is a no-no. There is not going to be jobs for you. Like when you finish your university, you are not going to have money to pay your bills, because it was a different time. So that brought me to studying a bachelor degree in education, because my mom is a preschool teacher. So I was like, okay, yeah, let's just follow my parents' wisdom.
It feels
So
like
yeah.
at that time it kind of like makes sense, right? Because I don't think a lot of us is ready to make such a big decision on what do you want to become when you're just 18 years old.
Yes, I
It's like
totally agree.
it's a year of like a lot of changes, and you barely know yourself. You have had zero experiences by then. You think you have, but no. And
Yes, yeah.
so following the path that your parents did, it kind of makes sense, because you feel like, well, I'm basically a copy of them. I'm a copy paste of both of them, so maybe it makes sense that I should do this. That means I might be good at this, and they already have the connections, right? So it does
Yeah.
make sense, though. But so, how did you feel going into becoming a preschooler teacher?
No, I didn't enjoy it. In general, I like being with kids, etc. And there are a few things that I didn't like about the career, but in general, I liked it. What I liked the most was to create, the classes, the creative part of it. I really liked it. So yeah, that's how I started my kind of stable life back in Mexico. I finished my university. I went to work, and then there was another point in my life when I realized that. I don't know, there was like a realization moment at 24 years old, yes, where I was like, oh my God, my life, I can already see how my life is going to look like the following 30 years. Work wise, relationship wise, like where I'm going to live. So, in a way, that scared me so much. I was like, I'm too young for, I don't know, for everything to be already settled, to be set, basically. So I was like, no, I think I have always been curious to travel abroad, to live in other places that was not the city where I'm from. So yeah, that's why it took me to another decision in my life where I just decided to leave my job and everything behind and move.
Do you have a boyfriend at that time?
Yes, I had. Well, no, I had, yeah, it was not like, let's say, one thing, yeah, things just happened. It was like 2 years in between before I move abroad, but yes.
Was that the boyfriend you had for a long time?
Yes. That's why I'm saying that all my life was super
Yeah,
stable at the time.
you had the stable relationship, the boyfriend that you know it was going to be a good person forever, the stable job, a career.
Yes. A
You need to,
house, like, yes, I was settled for life.
yeah, yeah,
Yes.
but yeah, I mean, at that age, you feel like, is that it?
Yes, that's exactly what I ask myself. Is
Because
that
it's,
it?
it's funny you mentioned that because I did feel like that. You know, my parents have their practice. Mom is a dentist. I'm a dentist now. I'm supposed to take over the practice. You know, just work in the town of Chihuahua forever. Meet a guy with a sombrero and
Yes,
the boots,
exactly the same
the
for me. I
northern
was like,
Mexican boots, and just ride and go to rodeos and just have children and just make tortillas and just
yes, exactly.
no, no. We need to experience other things. So,
Yes,
first place that you moved to was
Dublin.
Ireland.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's where we met. We didn't meet in Mexico, which is a funny fact. Um, how did we meet? I was living in this house, and then there was a girl that ended up being my friend, but then she became your friend as well, and then she had a fight with everyone, and now she's no one's friend.
Yes.
Very dramatic. But she had a Chilean friend that she invited, and then that friend invited more friends into our house garden, and there was Andrea in my
Yes.
garden.
It
And
was a
then
nice coincidence. Yes.
it was a nice coincidence. I don't think we spoke much that day, but then
No.
later when I moved upstairs with Alejandra, my little room was going to be available, and I remember this girl that is not friends with anyone. She was like, "Oh, maybe I should tell my friend Andrea because I think she needs a room." And I was like, "Well, yeah, that's perfect." I spoke to
Yeah.
the landlord, and I was like, "There's a girl that's interested and ready to move in." And then Andrea moved in, so we even share the same little room under the stairs, or a Harry Potter room. Literally, no windows.
Indeed. It had interior window though.
It was, yeah, that's true. Remember that time when we had to go get that spare key for you?
Yes.
You remember that?
Yeah, we had to jump over the window. Yes.
Yeah, because but it was me and Christina, nor was it you and me.
I don't remember to have jumped inside. I remember to
I
have
remember
helped someone.
jumping, but I
Ah.
wasn't living in that room anymore because, oh yes, and then I had, because one time I found out that behind a shelf by the entrance in the house, there was like a little box, like a box that had like spare keys for all the rooms, and I thought this landlord should not have a spare key for my little bedroom, so I
Yeah.
took one from that little bedroom and the one from the room I was living at, sharing with Alejandra. And then when you moved in, I gave you that spare key, remember?
Mm-hmm.
So the guy could not have that spare key.
Yes.
That's
Oh, that's what we thought.
Yeah, that's what we thought. Anyways, continuing with the story. So how was your life in Ireland? How was your experience? How was the challenge of, like we've discussed in other times about how a lot of people move to a different country and they just feel so disappointed because they're not finding the best job ever and they feel like they're not making it, and you're like, mate, you're 6 months in, you're 2 months in, you are here you're no one, you're zero. You have to be open-minded. You need to, at that time, like we said, print CVs and go drop them everywhere, hoping someone gives you a job. If you don't try, you're not gonna get not even the first job. How was that time for you? What was that inspiration you had? Was it excitement? Was it fear? Was it like, what was it?
Yeah, no, for me, since I put a foot on Ireland, I was like really excited about the experience, about the infinite possibilities, or at least that's the way that I saw it. I was like, look, from here I can rewrite.
Mentality as well.
Yes.
You were very positive.
Yes, I was like excited. I was like, I can rewrite what my destiny may look like. I can I have possibilities, which I felt that back in Mexico in a way I didn't have. I had already a cousin living there. She advised me to go with an open mentality in terms of the type of jobs that I was going to be able to access, because basically English was not going to be my first language. So obviously that was going to be a big barrier. And secondly, even though I had a bachelor degree in Mexico, it was obviously not going to be as valuable, or like it was not going to have the same value as in my own country. So since I arrived to Ireland, I was with an open mind. I was like, look, I'm here to learn, I'm here to improve my English, number one, and I'm here also to prove myself what I'm capable of. So yeah, any experience that any job that I could get was going to be super happy for I was going to be super happy with it. Also because another goal was to be able to pay my bills. So that was like a. But yeah, about the job experience, I arrived to Ireland, I started to apply to different jobs, and after probably giving in person, because at that time it was like an in-person interviews, I applied to probably like 50 or more jobs around the center of Dublin. And I remember I arrived to this Subway shop near Trinity College. And they were super busy during lunchtime because of all the students, etc. So I was lucky that the owner was there. He interviewed me super quickly, like probably 5 questions max. And he told me, you start tomorrow. And I was like, yay!
Do you know what is a tomato?
Have you ever prepared a sandwich before?
Fair enough. When I had this job as a what was it, like a maid cleaner in that hotel, remember? I remember they asked me, do you know how to make a bed? And I was like, well, I think so. Apparently
Yes.
there's a technique I didn't know about, but then now I make my bed like that.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think all jobs are helpful in a way. You always end up learning a few things. So yeah.
Definitely, yeah. Very good. So I think after you get your first job, then you have at least a reference from that country, so it's easier to start getting the second, the third job, etc. So exciting. So then Andrea moved to Singapore when I moved to London. So we actually spent how many years without seeing each other?
Yeah, probably like 4 years, which was the
Four
time that I
years.
was
Yeah,
in
because we
Singapore,
were in
yes.
Ireland like almost three years something. Um, and then you moved to Singapore and I moved to London. What what was that thing that happened that made you move to Singapore? Tell us a little
Yeah.
bit about that.
Yeah, so during my time in Dublin, I met my husband. So at the time, my boyfriend, he got a job
He just got
opportunity.
married, so I think it's finding it difficult to call him husband.
Yes. It does feel weird. It does feel weird. I don't know why. It makes me feel older. I'm like, I refuse. But yeah. No, so I met him there. He got a job opportunity, and basically he told me, "Look, I got this job opportunity. Would you be willing to move there with me?" And I was, to be honest, I was a bit hesitant because I had already built something back in Ireland. I already had a community. I felt comfy, and I still felt that I had a good opportunities. But at the same time, I felt that I don't know, I felt really, really comfy with him. I felt that potentially he could be the one. And so yeah, I decided to follow my heart in a way and
Follow
yeah,
him as
move.
well. But also he
Yes.
wanted you to come with him, you know?
Yes.
Otherwise, it would have been very difficult for a relationship to have lasted for that long, especially because it's not around the corner. You visited Mexico once.
Yes.
You were in Singapore.
Yes. It
So
was
how was
yeah, it
then
was quite far.
how was then moving to Singapore and starting from zero? It's important to note in here that when Andrea moved to Singapore, she's never been to Asia. She's never been to Singapore. So she's moving to a country that she's not visited before, and wow, that's respect. So how was it?
Yes.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, sometimes I think that it was definitely a wild move for both of us because yeah, we have never visited the city beforehand, but from what I remember, I think it was a different kind of cultural shock from the one that I got in Ireland. I think in Ireland because I was moving with some friends, I was still kind of in a bubble that I felt in a way familiar
Mm-hmm.
still. But when I moved to Singapore, I really felt that people were very different there, that people yeah, in general, the culture, the city, everything was very different to what I was familiar with. So it was a big cultural shock. And as Anna mentioned, it was also the acceptance to have to start all over again. Because, yeah, that's what I did in Ireland. I had to get familiar with the city, start, well, get a job, finding a place to live, starting to make your new group of friends. So I basically had to do all over again once I arrived to
And
Singapore.
also, it was difficult because you were there based on his work visa, right? At the beginning, it's very difficult when you're relying on your partner's visa status. So, another thing that Andrea changed was managing to find her own working visa, was it that you got?
Yeah, because the way that things work there is that to be able to work, you always have to get a sponsor. Like any person that is in Singapore needs to get a working visa, otherwise you cannot work in the country.
Even if
Uh,
you have your sponsor visa, your partner's visa.
yes, no, you can't.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So yeah, no. When I arrived to Singapore, I applied to all kinds of jobs. Again, I was again open minded in terms of the type of jobs I could apply. I applied to customer service type of jobs. I applied to a teacher, like preschool teacher type of jobs, and basically hoping for the best. And sometimes I still can't believe it that there was a person that actually gave me the opportunity. I went to an interview in person for a preschool teacher role, and yeah, that's how I got my first job as a preschool teacher back in Singapore.
Mm. So that was cool because in Ireland you were not working as a teacher, or did you?
No, all the time that I was in Ireland, I work in customer service. So, uh,
That's why you applied to customer service when you were in Singapore, because now you had the experience on that.
yes.
So finally you've made it to being a teacher, which is what you studied. What happened then? What happened that reminded you that at some point in your life you wanted to be a graphic designer? Did that just came back to, they say that um, when you're, how do you call, where you're calling, or the thing that you're supposed to do, you're not putting action on it, it keeps calling you back, it keeps calling you, it keeps bothering you, it keeps coming onto your head in your dreams, because it's what you're meant to do, right? If it's here, it's what you're meant to do. So what happened? What was that moment that made you feel like that?
Yeah, no, to be honest, I was super happy with the opportunity to be able to work as a teacher. I did the job for almost 3 years in Singapore.
No.
I was happy and I really appreciated the fact that I was able to get a job. But as we mentioned at the very beginning, I tend to get sometimes a little bit bored. I'm always trying to find new things to learn. So at the time, I was kind of starting to create a blog, a website blog, to share tips and information with people who were interested in living abroad, which actually came back that project, but at that time I just wanted to create like a blog, and I created a website from scratch. I learned how to use WordPress, which is a website builder, and basically I realized I really enjoy the fact of making websites in general. I really like designing, and that's how, I don't know, it was a realization moment where I was like, oh yeah, actually, yeah, this is back from a few years back where I realized I really like designing. So I don't know, I just kept doing it. And then there was a point where, chatting with my boyfriend at the time, he mentioned, oh, Andrea, I think you are really good at it. Why you don't try to pursue a career on this? If you really like it, I see that you are good at it. Why you don't try this career, which was relatively new at the time and was in demand too, called user experience design. And that's where I started to consider the possibility to change career. So I search online about the career. I search about the soft skills and hard skills that I needed to become a product designer or a user experience designer. And I decided to study a bootcamp, which was an online course basically that allow you to basically learn all the soft and hard skills for like a career switch. So I did it. After it, I did a few projects for free to be able to improve my experience and create my portfolio. And yeah, after 1 year working as a teacher during the day and studying, doing my portfolio at night, uh, applying for jobs, etc., I managed to get a career switch.
And you landed your first job.
Yes, I was like, to be honest, there was a moment where I remember applying to many different roles as for product designers, and I got rejected many times. And I remember my partner telling me, Andrea, you just need one person to believe in you. So just keep trying. And yeah, I found a person who believed in me and gave me the opportunity to work for his small company. It was a small Singaporean company, and that's how I landed my first job.
I remember you told me that because it was a startup and they didn't know much about UX design or what it implied, but they knew that they needed someone, so they just trusted you. So it was kind of like a great opportunity for you, of course, like life changing, but also a moment to be able to prove yourself, and you cannot let that opportunity go. And I think that's when you.
Yes. Yeah, there were a lot of moments of imposter syndromes, and I still have them from time to time. But I think I have a very good cheerleader with me that he has always give me like the extra motivation or yeah, security that I have needed at that time. But so yeah, I worked for that company for about 2 years, and Anna mentioned, yeah, they didn't know what product design was, so they just said like, look, we just know that we need a person. I think you could be the right one. So I just did the best I could, and I learned on the job.
That's amazing. Something that you mentioned is like your partner being there for you, and that's something that I want to note in this episode. Having conversations with people that love you, people that believe in you from your inner circle, it's so important because they always make you see things that you don't, because you see life in a certain way, but they see you from the outside and they always have a different point of view, and it can make you change your mindset. And at that time for you, it was so important when Ian noted how good you were making websites. He was like, maybe that's what you should be doing. And you already had the idea of being a graphic designer, so it kind of like combined both. But sometimes that's why you need community around you that you can trust. And also choosing your partner, I think, is so important, right? You've always
Yes.
said that it's so important because it does takes you further or it brings you down. So very, very important. So after then you're settled in Singapore and then again London now.
Yes.
Tell me about that now.
Yeah, no, I think we realized, as you mentioned, that it was just too far.
But also the pandemic, I remember a lot of your friends that you've made there, all these expats, they were moving back to Europe or to wherever they were from, and it was becoming a bit like the rules were very difficult as well to handle.
Yes, yes. I think everything made it a bit more difficult. I think Singapore is a very nice place for people who want to potentially travel around Asia because it's a city state. Is it sometimes I forget how to say it in English, but basically it's just basically a city and that's the whole country.
Yeah.
And so it's beautiful and everything works so great. It's a very modern city. I really liked it as a place to live, but you can imagine that during COVID it was a bit hard because basically you couldn't go anywhere. They were very strict in terms of rules, and also the fact that our families were very far away made it also it made us feel more isolated. So that's why we decided, look, we want to basically move back to somewhere in Europe. We were discussing different type of destinations depending on our career, obviously. So yeah, that's
And your
why
friends.
and the friends and so yeah, that's why we were like, I think London seems like the good place. There is a lot of job opportunities there. I already knew Anna who was living here, so I was like, okay, I feel that I'm not going to start from zero again. So yeah, that's
And
how we decided
he's
to
from
move here.
Paris, so it's literally 1 hour train away from Paris.
Yes, and a direct flight to Mexico
Hmm.
because yeah,
Exactly.
it was a long trip back to Mexico from Singapore.
And I remember you managed to get. No, you came with the same job here, right? Working remotely. And then you managed to get. Is it like your third job or something?
Yes, this will be my second job as
Your
a
second
product
job.
designer.
But
Yes.
so I think the most important moment in like career change in your case, it was, not giving up when you had all these difficult interviews that they rejected you, and you know what he said, what your partner said about it, just you just need one person that believes in you, and from there you have one experience and then references, and then you can take it forward. So important. That's an amazing story, Andrea. Because you've always have started from zero a lot of times, and you always make it work. So that's an inspiration for everyone. And so just to finish this little episode, I want you to tell us what are your 3, 5, 1 most important tips for taking action. What do you think makes taking action easy, or if it's a mentality thing, or do you feel like something really dark or bad has to happen for you to take action? What are your ideas on this? What do you think it requires for everyone to take action when they need to?
Yeah, I think in any, well, before being able to even start any project, you need to get to know yourself. Because if you don't know yourself, you don't know what you like, you don't know what you are good at. So if you don't know yourself, it's going to be very difficult for you to even considering starting projects or changing careers or developing a skill or anything, because basically, yeah, you don't if you don't take the time to getting to know yourself, you are not going to feel inspired, you are not going to feel motivated, you are not going to have
You're gonna be lost.
different, yeah, you're going to be lost. So I think the first step for me is definitely taking sometimes moment to consider where you are, because also like what you like or your dreams or your projects change with time. So for example, the things I like when I was like 10 years old, 20 years old probably are not going to be the same. But the first the first step for me is always to find some time to think about the things that you like now, and at the same time, based on that, think about where you would like to be in 5 years time. even in 1 year time. Who you would like to be in certain amount of time, and yeah, that would be like the step number one. So the step number two, once you decide what you like, you define like a project or something that you want to do, then I will encourage you to try it to see if you actually like it, because there are some things that, you know, with social media and things like that, sometimes we follow things because we see other people doing it and you're like, oh yeah, I want to do that. Like I don't know if it happened to you in the past, that probably you see like somebody playing piano and you're like, oh, I wish I could play piano, or like, I don't know, you just there are so many things that make you distracted and you think that you like things but actually you don't. So that's why I think that first step of really knowing what you like is important. And then if that first step was not filtered properly, the second step for me will be to try it out, to actually realize, oh no, I actually didn't like it. I
Well, also
just
you need to know if you kind of feel like you might be good, because I think you need to realize, so you need to like it, right? Of course. But then you need to know that you have certain skill set to be able to do that thing, and then once you apply it and you start working on it, to realize if you will be able to learn fast and be good at it, or if you're starting from zero, you need to understand that it might take you longer, you know?
yeah.
So, okay, very important.
Yeah, I think like on that second step is like to try it out, to kind of reassure you that you actually really like what, like, you were sure. Like for example, on my side, I thought I like building websites, and when I tried out, I actually really like designing websites. And then, as you mentioned, is also to test out if you're actually really good at it, of if you are not good at it, to, for example, if you set up a date in 1 year time, probably it will help you to readjust that date according to your actual skills. Like, oh, I thought it was going to take me 1 year to learn to learn how to play piano perfectly. Well, it may take me longer. I still like it, but I do have to be realistic with myself that it's not going to take me 6 months or 1 year. It's going to take me much longer, but at least you know. Number three would be to, well, you already had that initial date, right? You already like kind of put a date like, oh, I would like to see myself in this way in 5 years time. But once you try it out and you realize your actual skills, and you learn more about what you need to do to be able to achieve the goal or achieve your dream, then is to divide it into smaller pieces for you to be able to achieve each goal at a time. Because if you, for example, start with a super big goal, you are probably going to feel demotivated, you are going to feel overwhelmed, you are going to feel like, oh, I will never achieve it. But if, for example, I don't know, a good example could be, yeah, playing piano. Oh, I want to learn how to play one song in 1 month time or in 3 months time, and then basically keep growing the small task until you get to a bigger goal, which was like, oh, I want to be a pro in playing piano or something like that.
And
Anything. Yeah.
I think at that stage you learn a lot about yourself, and then you actually have that gut feeling of like if this is for you or if this is gonna work out or not.
Yes. Yeah, and also like if you break it down into smaller pieces and you achieve those smaller pieces, it's going to keep you motivated because you were able to achieve it, but also it's going to make you
Gives you confidence that you can
yes, it
achieve.
gives you confidence because you achieve, then you're like, okay, yeah, I'm doing great. But also it's going to make you accountable. Because if, for example, if you put that date so far away, you're going to be like, oh, it's okay, I have 1 year to do it. But if you put smaller goals closer, it's going to make you accountable though. So, oh, I have to achieve this by this time or by this date. And if you get to that point, either if you achieve it, you feel super motivated, or you feel like, oh, I didn't do it. So I have to readjust the whole timeline now because I didn't achieve that. So basically, it's like to put a little bit of pressure on you to make sure that you actually take action, that you actually achieve it. Otherwise, everything else is going to be moved back.
Definitely. Wow, very interesting. I think that when you start taking those little steps as well, if you feel like it's becoming more like a task, more something like something that you have to add to your to-do list, and you have no inspiration or excitement to do it, I think that's a very strong gut feeling that maybe that is not for you. But if you feel excited and you start seeing like a clearer path, like a lot of people say that you don't have to sit there and just wait for the road to show. Once you start moving, taking the first step, the road will be showing up to yourself. It's gonna start opening up. So
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
interesting. Those are very good tips for taking action, definitely. So let's just recap a little bit. First step is you have to know yourself, right? So you know then what is that you want, where do you see yourself in 5 years, and then put a goal, a date, and then based on that date, break it into little steps that are achievable, easy to achieve steps, and
Yes.
that will be a game changer, I'm sure.
Yes. And don't forget to try it out too. Try it out to see if
Yes.
you really like it.
Of course, very important. Well, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all those stories with you, Andrea. Like I said, for everyone, Andrea is a great inspiration for taking action, and it has made me take action myself on my own projects as well, because she's like, come on, she's also like a cheerleader, and that's why it's so important as well to have like your close friends. And obviously you don't have to discuss your projects with everyone, but like have a friend that you can trust, or even maybe your parents that can help you. But I think if you find someone that is trying to work on the same projects, it's more relatable and it helps you more than, I was trying to explain to my mom a little bit about my project, and she makes suggestions and stuff which are highly appreciated, but I don't think she understands because she's not in that environment. So it's important to find people that you can trust, but they understand the projects that you're working on, or they at least have some experience, right? Very
Yeah, and
important.
that keeps you motivating along the way. Yes.
Definitely. And I also wanted to say Andrea has her own podcast as well. So if it's in Spanish, so if you're just Spanish speaker native and you should follow her, because if you're interested in moving abroad, that's what her podcast is about. The name of her podcast is Vivir en el extranjero. So make sure you follow it. Very great tips for moving abroad and how you can achieve those goals and all the options that you have to make that big change happen. So don't forget to follow the February effect as well. Thank you so much, Andrea, and see you guys on the next one.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.